In this video, Neville Goddard teaches how to properly manifest and get whatever you want in life. In brief, he will explain how to achieve your manifestation in the clearest, most understandable way imaginable. Do you believe you have unrealized potential in any area of your life, including your relationships, economics, career, or health? Did you notice that whatever it is that you are conscious of being, you are only being dragged into your environment at this very now? Therefore, instead of continuing in your current level of consciousness, which relates to fulfilling your wants, you must change into a new state of awareness that corresponds to manifesting them in your life. Life doesn't care in the slightest if you think of yourself as strong or weak, wealthy or poor. Whatever you just said to be true of yourself will bring you rewards for all time. To start, his approach was revolutionary. He said that anyone can use only their imagination to attract or create anything they actually need. Yes, he firmly thought that anything you can imagine or think about can come true. Second, Neville's technique stood out because he approached the Bible in a somewhat different way than most people do. Or, to put it another way, he didn't approach it the way that most people do. However, he had a strong commitment to Christianity and its tenets, and this is very clear in his lectures, as he just added his own special twist while incorporating biblical concepts into his own lessons. The allure of manifesting is that it takes care of all the details. All you have to do is see the desired outcome rather than trying to picture how your wish would come true. You may have observed that Neville's methods all have a similar component in common. They all rely on the potential for creativity and vision. It is best to test several of them, rather than just one, since even though the methods are different, they are remarkably similar due to their shared concept. Let's wait until Neville speaks for himself before moving on. Please remember to subscribe to our channel if you like the daily content we provide. Please pay great attention as I explain how to experience having your wish fulfilled today by using your creative mind. And let it stay there while it relaxes. And I can confirm the fact that if you can honestly imagine yourself in the position of having your wish granted and maintain this state until you fall asleep, you will be conscious of the state in which you sleep. Hold that state for as long as necessary to give it all the shades and sensory vibrancy of reality as you totally immerse yourself in it. Then, in that situation, softly retire to bed. You will realize that you are moving through a series of circumstances that will finally lead you to the objective realization of this condition in a way that you could never have anticipated or deliberately planned. Here is a little tip that you can use. You need to first specify exactly what you want from this setting. Create a picture that is as lifelike as you can once you finish this, and what you would do, feel, and experience while moving physically in such a situation. Imagine that I wanted to go home, but didn't have the funds to do so. If I didn't have to take anything into consideration, I would build a lifelike replica of the house I want with everything in it, but I still know what I want. And this evening, while I get ready for bed, I'll pretend that I'm actually in a home similar to that one. Either I will get out of bed, stand up on the floor of that house, leave this room, and go into the room next to my imagined room in that house. I can tell the furnishings is real and solid when I touch it. Then, as I wander from one room in my make-believe house to the next, I'll fall asleep. And since I have frequently seen my house flourish, I am convinced that despite my best attempts, I would inevitably come to understand it. If I wanted a promotion at work, I'd ask what new responsibilities I should accept in exchange for this wonderful advancement. What would I do? What could I see? How would I react? I'll then begin acting out the things I regularly see, feel, and do in my imagination. If I was in that circumstance, if I were to now wish the core of my existence, what would I actually find myself doing that would indicate that I have arrived? Are you now looking for a wonderful woman or a wonderful man? For instance, I would surely wear a wedding band if I were a woman. I would pretend that it was their ring and put it in my imaginary hand, and I would keep going through it. Until it seemed completely real to me, I would give it every ounce of sensory realism I was capable of. And I would drift off to sleep as I felt my made-up wedding band, which implies I am wed. If I were to translate that beautiful poem into modern English and use concrete words, it would sound like this. I would feel myself in the circumstances of my fulfilled desire as soon as I sat in my chair. The Song of Song, often known as a Song of Solomon, tells us this tale. According to legend, I searched out and discovered my soulmate one night while lying in bed, and I wouldn't let him go until I brought him to my mother's house and placed him in her bedroom. I also pledged to keep the emotion alive after achieving that state of mind. And since so few people are aware of the tremendous power of the imagination, I would fall asleep in that state as if I were entering my mother's room, the room where she gave birth. But as soon as he begins to use this power, he ceases to act in the same way. He doesn't simply turn into a light that reflects and then leaves. From this point on, he is the source of life. The secret is to maintain intense awareness of your ability to live a more abundant life, based on your ability to live in the emotion of a wish being fulfilled, while keeping your concentration on the sensation of a want being fulfilled. Most of us struggle to think of ourselves as notable, honest, and assured in our contributions to the world, simply because at the moment we start, our assumption, reason, and senses all challenge its reality. I beg you to give it a shot because you will discover this tremendous ancient wisdom if you do. We appear to be controlled by an unconscious impulse that makes us diligently hold on to the familiar environment and fight off anything that might try to pull us away from our comfortable and supposedly safe anchors. Alternatively, they communicated with us using their own stunningly brilliant symbolic language. Unfortunately, you and I mistook their story for history when they actually intended it to be guidance to help us quickly achieve all of our objectives. You see, we are connected to a range of past and present states through our imaginations, but when we think about them, they are just possibilities that eventually become overwhelmingly real when we reflect on them and remain there. Knowing what you want and imagining it are two very different things from imagining what you want in this world. I first learned about the remarkable and peculiar power of the imagination in New York City in 1933. I first learned about it from an old friend by flipping to John chapter 14 and reading the following. If it weren't for the fact that many things are said about my Father's house, I would have told you before I left to create room for you. Furthermore, if I go ahead and provide you a place to live, I'll come back and accept you into myself so that he can be wherever I am. He went on to say that the primary protagonist of the Gospels was human imagination. The setting in some divine house was merely my yearning. If I constructed a living representation of the state desired, entered that state, and remained there, I would be able to tell that during the time I wanted to travel to the West Indian island of Barbados, but lacked the funds to do so. He assured me that if I went to sleep in New York City that night believing I was in my earthly father's house in Barbados, and awoke in that state, I would be able to understand what was taking place. Here is what I've learned. I gave it a month's worth of effort because I trusted him when he said it would work. Every night before I went to sleep, I had a dream that I was in my father's Barbados home. At the end of my month, my family sent me an invitation to spend the winter in Barbados. I sailed for Barbados in the start of December of that year. I immediately understood that I had found this savior within myself. The elderly man gave me his word that it will always be successful. Even after it did, I find it difficult to think that it would not have happened. How illogical everything is. Enjoy